If everyone would please rise, I'd like to call the Saline City Council meeting to order. If you please face the American flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, members present this evening are myself, Mayor Morrow, council members Gearbaugh, Rhodes, McClellan, Tahar, and Dillon. From city staff, we have City Manager Campbell, Clerk Royal, Treasurer Bennett, City Superintendent Engineer Rubel, DPW Director Fordyce, Police Chief Rennick, and Parks and Rec Director Scruggs. The rest of you who are in the audience this evening, if you'd be so kind to sign in the back to my left, we would appreciate that. For council's benefit, there were 3 supplementals provided to you this evening. One is in reference to a discussion item, People's Express, and it also relates to an email that Councilmember Gearbaugh sent earlier today regarding ridership of People's Express 2013 to 2016. We also have a memo from the State of Michigan Environmental Assistance Center regarding water quality, and then we have a copy of our Community Vision Tour 2020, which will also be referenced during the discussion portion of the agenda. At this time, I would like to move to approve the agenda as amended. I had a request from Saline Main Street to bump up new business item 16-116, which would become the first item under new business. And if you would all indulge me, I would like to do that. So again, I would move that we approve the agenda as amended, noting that one change, unless there are others. Mr. Gearbaugh.
I'd just like to add to the discussion item the sesquicentennial.
Can we bring that up under commission, committee, and task force reports?
That's fine.
That's already enumerated? Yep. Very good. So is there a motion? Actually, I moved. Excuse me. It's been moved by Marl to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dillon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. How about a motion to excuse the absence of Council Member Jack Seal?
So moved.
Moved by Council Member Gearbaugh, seconded by Councilwoman Tahar. All those in favor of excusing the absence signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We move on to citizen comments on agenda items under the Open Meetings Act. Any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question on an item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments on agenda items? There are none, then we'll proceed to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve as submitted.
It's been moved to approve the consent agenda as submitted by Councilmember Rhodes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. We move on to public hearing 16-111. This is General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 17. It's a series of 4 motions. The first is a motion to acknowledge receipt of the May 24th memo from Deputy Treasurer McDonough regarding the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 17.
So moved.
Moved to
Second.
acknowledge receipt by Councilmember Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McClellan. Treasurer Bennett, do you want to make a comment at this time? Obviously, we've gone over our budget. I don't want to say ad nauseum, but we've gone over it robustly and had some really substantive discussions. There was an email today by Councilmember Gearbaugh referenced the rec center portion of the budget. Perhaps you can comment on that and make any other comments that you would like.
Probably most that most people are inquiring is what is it going to be? There will be the proposed budget does not increase a millage. There's no millage increase for the city tax portion of the budget. The budget is a deficit this year, taking into consideration and using some monies that we have set aside for the personal property loss and some of the street construction projects. We've allocated that money through prior years. We've saved the money for this type of a project, and so we are going to be using some of our saved money to close the gap. So our revenues are under the amount of our expenditures, but we have been putting away money for that. In reference to the, I think Mr. Gearbaugh's email was in reference to the rec center budget. And the rec center has, a couple of years, we've restructured the revenue streams, and we're still working on trying to get that out. The FY16 compared to the FY17, had we not increased the FY17 expenditures to reflect the actual retirement costs for those retirees that we started to report now, we've moved that into the rec center budget prior to this year. It was in our general fund budget, so we've moved that over. So without that move, we would have had a flat, the revenues and expenditures were running pretty flat, budgeted, FY16 to FY17 budget. The FY16 numbers are right on target with 2 months left, and we tend to, or I should say our revenue target is right on target. We're coming in much lower on our expenditures, so we hope to see a little bit shift in that as we get closer to the end of the year, and then there will be a third amended budget coming to you for that. So hopefully we'll be able to address those concerns.
Yeah, my question was just understanding how we increase from the one to the other, which again reinforces this issue of pension liabilities, which I just understand that that's the issue. So that is a concern that we now have to continue to address.
We've got pensions addressed, and coming down the pipe will be other post-employment benefits. So we talked about that some too.
And it's primarily an accounting change, isn't it?
Yes.
The way you're showing it, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other question, did we do this to any other funds or just the rec center?
We have been picking it up, general fund, water and sewer, because those are our major funds. We've been doing it through that. And this FY16, when we were doing preparing the Gatsby statement, we had to actually do a census. And so our MERS census came in, and that's when I realized, oh, these people were rec center, and we probably, so the four major funds are all, water and sewer have been contributing in the past.
Got it.
And then this year, we started allocating it to water, or to rec center as well.
Okay, thank you.
We don't think, our rec center is 25 years old this year. Our director's been there for 25 years. I forget that there's other people who have retired already. So you don't, until you see those numbers. So we have made that adjustment.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that even with the change in this increase, the contribution is not increasing from our general fund to the rec center at this point.
Correct.
It's still at the same level as what it
Yes,
always has been.
it is the same amount. We thought we would just show them in there so that in the event that we're not all here knowing what is being
No, I
done.
appreciate your taking that change.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Any questions for our city treasurer? There are no questions. We appreciate your time very much. Thank you for your work on this. If there's no further discussion or comments, questions from the group, we'll proceed to vote on the motion moved by Gearboss, seconded by McClellan to acknowledge receipt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. How about a motion to open the public hearing, affording the general public an opportunity to comment on our upcoming budget?
So moved.
Moved by Gearboss to open the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. All those in favor of opening the public hearing at 7:42 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Public hearing is now open. If there's anyone from the public who'd like to comment on our upcoming budget.
TriCaster makes it possible for you to simultaneously...
Move to close.
Moved by Gearboss to close the public hearing, seconded by, was that Dillon?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. So we'll be closing it at 7:43. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The public hearing is now closed. We proceed to the final motion under this portion of the agenda, a motion to approve and adopt or not to adopt the resolution as submitted adopting the General Appropriations Act budget for fiscal year 2016-2017, providing for a general operating millage of 14.1155 mils, including funding required for fire protection, 2001 street debt millage of 0.1190 mils, the 2004 street debt millage of 0.4016 mils, and the refuge millage of 1.6439 mils, for a total millage levy of 16.28 mils, which is unchanged from fiscal year 2015-2016.
Move to approve and adopt.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Seconded by, was that you, Tahar?
Yes, it was.
Thank you, ma'am. Any comments or any discussion? Mr. Gearbaugh, please.
I know this year we've seen a lot of millage increases coming forth, and I'm glad that we're able to maintain our millage as it is. However, we do realize that we have some potential issues coming up in terms of road millages and other aspects that we as a city need to concern ourselves with and how we're going to handle those in the future. So moving forward, we have a lot of projects on our plates, but I'm not sure we have all the funding that we're going to have available for it. So it's going to be a tight year in the coming years unless the government in Lansing figures out ways to handle roads differently. So,
Thank you, Mr. Gearba. Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes.
As Mayor Morrow mentioned earlier, we have spent many, many hours reviewing this proposed budget for the coming fiscal year, both with various members of city staff and with city council and in work sessions. And I think everyone has done a good job of paring down the expenses where they needed to be and being realistic in the proposed revenue. So I'm pleased to support this.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Any additional comments? No, then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Rhodes, seconded by Tahar, to approve and adopt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-116. This will be the 2016 Summer Music Series location change for construction. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the May 20th, 2016 memo from Jill Durnan, Saline Main Street Board President, and to approve or not to approve the request to allow the Summer Music Series concerts to be moved from South Ann Arbor to North Ann Arbor when deemed appropriate during the US 12 construction project.
Move to acknowledge and approve.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilwoman Tahar, seconded by Councilwoman McClellan. Ms. Durnan, do you care to make any comment this evening? This seems pretty cut and dry and more than reasonable, but we welcome any thoughts that you may have.
Yes, just as the Main Street's goal for this construction project is to keep all of our events downtown. So we wanted to just have a plan for when construction does need us to move, and the most logical plan was to flip it to North Ann Arbor Street. We did take into account that the parking lot on that street can still stay open. We're going to just barricade just on the south side of that one parking lot, so still able to have that utilized during the concerts. Of many questions.
Very good. Riley, do you want to make any additional comment?
One quick thing is, once we're notified that we should possibly have it on North Ann Arbor Street, we will notify the police chief to get that traffic order out as soon as possible. So that's one thing I wasn't mentioning in the memo. We will make sure that that gets notified very fast.
Very good. Any questions for the applicants? Mr. Gearbaugh, then followed by
just a quick
Mayor Pro
question.
Tem Rhodes.
When do you intend to close it? Because I know rush hour traffic has been really backed up at that point in time.
5 p.m.
5 p.m., so right at
Yeah,
rush
same
hour.
time as it would be, so.
Okay, so we may need some assistance at that time from our police, just to make sure we don't have a whole bottleneck at that point.
And this, I want to make sure too, is if this is an alternative to that location on South Ann Arbor. Our goal is to have it on South Ann Arbor as much as we possibly can. I know it's been perceived in the community that we're just moving it, and this is an alternative location to when Hoffman Brothers feels it's not safe to have the public in the city. Also, does not feel like it's safe to have the public around the equipment and stuff.
Yeah, as soon as it's ready to go back, we'll turn it back.
Yeah, good.
Quick question.
Actually, Mr.
Sorry.
Rhodes is next, Councilwoman McClellan, then you. Thank you.
If it does need to be moved, I just wanted to be assured that there's going to be adequate signage at McKay and North Ann Arbor Street, and maybe even some further up North Ann Arbor, to let people know that it may look open to them, and then they're going to be stuck in there and have to go through the parking lot and be unhappy. So there needs to be plenty of signage to tell people that you can't get through.
Or the DPW on the side.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Ms. McClellan?
Yeah, just a question for when it stays on South Ann Arbor Street, because I'm assuming that you're going to try and keep it on South Ann Arbor. What's the plan for the lighting? Because the streetlights are all gone there. Does the music series usually get over before it gets dark anyway?
In the begining of the series, it does.
Okay.
At the end, we do have to get that into account.
Okay.
To,
Just because I
at the end of the season.
know it's pretty dark down there, so.
Any additional questions, ladies? No? Okay. Thank you both. Appreciate your time. Any subsequent discussion on this? No? Okay. It's been properly moved by Tahar, seconded by McClellan to acknowledge receipt and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-112. This is Lyra Lynn Smith Girl Scout Gold Award Project. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the May 18th, 2016 memo from Parks Commission Recording Secretary Roberts and to approve or not to approve Lyra Lynn Smith's Girl Scout Gold Medal Award Project plans to construct and install a rain garden at Mill Pond Park.
Move to acknowledge and approve?
Thank you, Councilwoman McClellan. Is there a second?
Second.
seconded by Councilwoman Tahar. Ms. Scruggs and Ms. Smith, welcome.
Well, before I introduce Marilyn Smith, I just wanted to let you know that I met with Marilyn and along with,
You're gonna get that door shut. I don't think your microphone is working, Ms. Scruggs.
how about that?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
working now.
All right, I'll start over. So I'd like to give a little preface before I introduce Marilyn Smith. Marilyn met with myself and DPW Director Fordyce to discuss her idea, her project, and I was, well, both of us were very impressed with the thought that went into this, and I'm thinking that maybe we have all of the bases covered. She did her presentation to the Parks Commission last month, and that passed with flying colors, so I'd like to let her tell you about the project, and we're seeking approval for that.
Very good.
Good evening, City Council. As you've already heard, I'm Marilyn Smith. I'm a Girl Scout ambassador who has just completed my senior year of high school, and I am proposing to construct a rain garden by the footbridge adjacent to the pond in Mill Pond Park. I can show you the plan, the plant list, and the estimated cost. All
Why don't you pass that to Ms. McClellan, and we'll distribute it amongst ourselves on the dais. Sorry to interrupt.
It's no problem. I had anticipated that it would be thus. All right. All costs associated with this project will be acquired by me through traditional Girl Scout fundraising efforts, which is to say it won't cost the city anything. The maintenance for the garden in its first year will be carried out by Girl Scout troops, so that also won't cost the city anything. The garden itself will serve to reduce the flooding and mosquito breeding next to the footbridge, where you might have noticed that standing water tends to accumulate after heavy rains. The plants will assist in letting the water return to the soil and not sit stagnant. The plants will also take up the water. All plants mentioned in this plan are native to the area. They serve as habitats for butterflies and bees. There is a plan to construct a roughly 2-foot-tall cedar fence around the 3 of the 4 sides of the trapezoidal garden so as to deter foot traffic from stepping on the tiny plants. The costs associated with this fence and its installation are also taken care of by me.
Very good. Anything else?
I am very open to questions.
Excellent. All right. What questions do we have from the group? Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, please.
You may have said this, but I was busy studying the plant layout, so I didn't hear, so I apologize if you did, but who's going to maintain the rain garden?
Local Girl Scout troops.
Okay, and when you say the footbridge, we're not talking about the Bowley Bridge over to the island. We're talking about out in the field there where that little swale is?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Very good, thank you.
Additional questions? No? Ms. Dillon?
It's for Mr. Fordyce.
Oh.
Does this produce any kind of problems for mowing or maintenance?
I think it's going to be a net zero, because we do have problems with that area with being wet, so we get rutting and problems like that there. With the garden there, expect it'll increase the water infiltration. We will have, another object to work around. There'll be the fencing there, but that fence marking it off, we'll be able to just control the grass growth in that area, work right around it.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Mr. Rhodes?
Proposed date of installation? Or
That
time period?
That remains to be seen based on volunteer availability. We're anticipating the middle of June, as close as we can get.
I was thinking about the Celtic Festival that
Yes.
takes place down there and the difficulty one might have in trying to work around that.
We'll have it in before the Celtic Festival. If necessary, I will stand with the garden for the entirety of the festival, explaining its purpose and educating the community as per the requirements of the Gold Award project.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the group? Ms. Smith, thank you very much. Ms. Scruggs, do you care to make any additional comment?
No, actually, some of the items that you brought up were the same questions that Director Fordyce and I had regarding the maintenance, and Marilyn has assured that she's going to be working with other troops, because she's going off to college and she won't be here to stand guard or to pull the weeds or whatnot. And she's going to take care of that for us. And then the fencing was the other thing that we had concern with, because we don't want to mow over it or people to walk through it. And we thought it's just a visual barrier. It's not meant to be like an unattractive fence, just hey, don't go in there. And actually, regarding the mowing, a lot of times we can't mow it because it is so wet. You can't get the tractors through there. So I think this could solve one of the problems that we do have.
Very good. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Is there any subsequent discussion on this motion? I'm sorry, Ms. Dillon.
I just have one quick comment to make, which is that possibly at some point the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts consider either joining forces or separately creating some sort of legacy group to maintain these projects, because you're implying that you've got somebody for the next year, but then after, a lot of these projects become the burden of the city to take care of. And it's not that we can't take care of them, it's sometimes they become unsafe and they have to be removed. And it's sort of awkward to just sort of pull somebody's project out.
I can allay some of your concern now by saying that the benefits of a rain garden and of the native plants mentioned is that after the first year, they are effectively self-maintaining, plus or minus a little bit of weeding. The plants are competitive enough to drive out other competition. It's just that first year where they're in danger of being overgrown by grasses or weeds, which is why the first year maintenance is what I always mention. That being said, it would be my honor to work with local Boy Scout troops to assist in creating a legacy project.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Anything further? Thank you again, Ms. Smith. Then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Councilwoman McClellan, seconded by Councilwoman Tahar, to acknowledge receipt and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, and it was an honor and a pleasure to speak to you.
Wonderful. We move on now to new business item 14-134. This is wastewater treatment plant improvement phase 2, pay estimate number 9. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the May 16th, 2016 memo from City Superintendent Engineer Rubel, and to approve or not to approve the contractor's application for payment number 9 in the amount of $383,640.61. Is there a motion?
Move to acknowledge receipt and to approve.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearba. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Mr. Rubel, do you care to make any comment at this time? No? Okay, are there any questions for staff?
Just
Gearba, please.
if we could have a quick update on just the pollution, or the odor abatement aspect of it, because I've been smelling it lately. So I know we've had concerns from some of our neighbors.
Sure. You may recall staff sent out a couple weeks ago a media release, because part of the improvements for phase 2 are the RBCs, the rotating bacterial collectors, and those are typically, when they're operating normally, they're under a Quonset hut type structure to help abate and keep the smell down. While they're working on those, the covers have to be off, and it's best, even with the best intentions of covering them with a tarp and that type of thing when they're not on, has increased the odor.
Have we had any calls or concerns?
We have.
Okay.
Right, and that's what kind of initiated the media release to let people know that we are. So we're hoping by the end of June that part of the work will be done. And so hopefully we will see. I mean, again, as you heard me say before, I mean, it is a wastewater treatment plant. So there is going to be some odor from time to time, but we're doing the best we can to abate that as best we can. So,
yeah, and I want to acknowledge that you are working your best
yes.
to try and do that. So, thank you.
I would also acknowledge Mr. Campbell, and council will recall this, the general public may not, but beyond the scope of our projects to improve the viability of our wastewater treatment plant, we approved work on the Dual odor scrubber, which was completed probably about a month and a half ago. And it is clear when you walk the perimeter of the facility that piece of equipment is working. You can hear it sucking the air, and it does make a difference. Now, there have been additional things that have been done at the plant, additional things that are being worked on that cause some odor issues, but I would remind my friends in the general public who live in that vicinity and who experience an odor issue, please pick up the phone and call us. And call us immediately when you're experiencing an odor issue, and staff will do what they can to try and mitigate the issue. I feel like I repeat this quite often, but it's not helpful for any of us to receive an email or call and say it was bad yesterday or it was bad Tuesday. It's much more beneficial to know immediately or right when a homeowner or a business owner is experiencing an odor issue. So again, we take these concerns and these inquiries very seriously, and we hope to have much of this resolved by the time that the project has concluded. So just wanted to add that. Are there any additional questions or comments pertaining to this motion that's been moved by Gearboss, seconded by Dillon? No, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-113. This is 2016 Street Construction Bid Award. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the June 1st, 2016 memo from City Superintendent Engineer Rubel and to approve an award or not to award the 2016 street projects to Cadillac Asphalt LLC in the amount of $463,081.61.
Move to acknowledge receipt and to approve and award.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Is that a second by Tahar?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Rubel, do you care to make any comment?
Thank you, Mayor. As you can tell by the memo and the bid tabulation results, that there is good news here, both for the project and for the budget as well. For the street funds, is that the bids came in, or the low bid anyway, came in very low, much under, almost 100,000 under what we had budgeted, and much less than the estimate. So we are blessed in that area compared to prior years, including the current US 12 project, which was bid at 15% over by MDOT. So, and we also have the best contractor that's available. I think part of the reason he provides us excellent bid prices is that he's right here on the US 12 project, paving the base and level and wearing course there.
Thank you, Mr. Rubel. Any questions for our city superintendent? No questions? Thank you. Any discussion on this motion? Mr. Hart.
Yes, I would just comment that this is good news. It was good to read the good news, and I just, in this context, I had planned to say, and Mr. Gearbaugh mentioned it earlier in the budget discussion, this is good news about our infrastructure repair and maintenance, and looking ahead, we have some serious infrastructure needs ahead of us for which we don't have a lot of money just sitting around to do. So we have some hard work ahead of us in the future for infrastructure projects.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any additional comments? No discussion? Well, then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Rhodes, seconded by Tahar, to acknowledge receipt, to approve, and to award. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-114. This is dissolution of resolution passport application acceptance program. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the May 25th, 2016 memo from Clerk Royal and to approve or not to approve the dissolution of the resolution and allow Deputy Clerk Bloom to accept and process passports.
Move to acknowledge and to approve.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McClellan. Clerk Royal, do you care to comment on this at all?
This is just some housekeeping. In 2014, we were told that the Department of State did not want anybody who handles the voter registration cards to also handle passports. And then in 2015, they decided to change that. So we had already passed this resolution, so we're just trying to get rid of it.
Any questions for the clerk? Any subsequent discussion? No, then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Gearboss, seconded by McClellan, to acknowledge receipt and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-115. This is People's Express 2016 contract. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the June 1st, 2016 memo from DPW Director Fordyce and to approve or not to approve the 2-year contract as presented to People's Express in the amount not to exceed $45,000 $1,423 per year upon review and approval by the city attorney. Is there a motion?
I'll move to acknowledge receipt.
Thank you, Mr. Gearba. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Mr. Fordyce, do you care to make any comment on this, sir?
Thank you. Primary comment would be that there's a lot of things happening in the world of public transportation in the area right now. The Regional Transportation Authority is presenting their final plan and the millage proposal that'll go along with it. AATA has done one round of expansion of their service, but at this time they're not ready to provide something that we can afford as a replacement for what we have right now. So it's my proposal to renew with People's Express again, let those things shake out, see where they land, and then continue efforts to explore other options.
Very good. Questions for our DPW director, Mr. Gearba?
And I appreciate it. I asked earlier for this ridership information, which is kind of where I wanted to see how well we were doing. It looks like that second bus is what really helps us keep up with all the ridership.
Yeah, the second bus helps in two ways. Obviously, two buses can carry more than one. But the other thing that it does is the second bus is dedicated to out-of-town trips further afield. And when we had one bus that would go on a fairly far outside of the city trip, it could eliminate 2 or 3 or 4 in-town trips because that one took so much time. So we have twice the physical capacity and that time factor that one bus takes care of the long trips and then the other one stays in the immediate area.
It doesn't show the split exactly. Do you see more ridership in terms of, well, so is the out-of-towners, so we've seen a lot of increase on in-town trips? I see the cancellations have dropped significantly.
Yeah, it's actually, the in-town trips are the ones that have increased the most. So by taking that same number of out-of-town trips and giving them off on one bus, that's allowed the in-town bus to do a lot more work.
Great. Thank you.
Additional questions for our DPW director? Mr. Rhodes?
On the cancellations, do we know if those are cancellations from the proposed riders or cancellations from People's Express because they couldn't handle it?
Those cancellations are people who made a reservation and then for some reason canceled. Yeah.
Okay, and then my other comment is one that I make every time this contract comes up for renewal, and that is item 3, type of service. It says contractor shall provide transportation for all city residents, not limited to those with special needs or seniors. And yet, under item 1, the only place where the brochures are distributed are 2 senior centers, Evangelical Home, Mill Pond Manor, and Brecken Village. So it's kind of like deja vu all over again. They're not getting information out to our residents at large. Again, still. I don't know how we get them to do that.
I don't, if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, I don't know how you get them to do that either, Mr. Fordyce, but it seems like a pretty easy fix. I mean, there's a number of other locations where there should be materials and flyers, the library, through our school system,
right.
Certainly at local businesses, at the Chamber of Commerce office. So I don't understand the hesitation or the unwillingness to do that.
I think it's, we can fix that. I don't see any problem with that.
Ms. McClellan? I'm sorry, Mr. Rhodes, do you have any other questions?
That's it.
Thank you. Ms. McClellan?
Is any of that information online as well about their availability to other?
It is online. It probably needs a little freshening and updating, but yeah.
Mr. Gearba?
Is it promoted through like the Saline Post or any other?
I'm not aware of it in the Post. No.
Okay, I'm just saying that might be another way of getting that information out.
I mean, I would expect that, we're kind of close to what one bus can do in town. And the out-of-town bus does have restrictions on it because of the grant funding for that one. But we can do
we can spread that promotional around a little bit better. Make sure we maintain that ridership level.
Any other questions, comments? Ms. Dillon?
As far as the cancellations, have you gotten any feedback from People's Express? Does it impact their service? Like, have they had to turn people away because they were overbooked and then had people canceling? Is there any ramifications to canceling?
That certainly is, that could happen. I don't think there's an issue with this level of cancellations. They did used to have to turn people away when they just had the one bus. So the number of people that they're not allowing to reserve has gone down or improved because they have that second bus for the out of town. So no, I don't think the cancellations are a significant issue.
I have one other question.
Please.
Which was at the mayor's health forums. Some of the public had mentioned about public transportation for people with special needs. Are these buses equipped for wheelchairs, and are they accessible that way?
For physical disabilities, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
If I may, Mayor.
Please.
They also allow if an individual needs an aid or assistance, that aid or assistance rides at no cost.
Thank you.
Ms. McClellan, then Mr. Gearbaugh?
Yeah, just touching on the, you're saying that if they advertise more, there may not be the availability of the service. Is that what they're worried about?
People's Express has not stated that. I'm just looking at the numbers and how they increased once we put the second bus on there, the in-town rides in that upper 200, 300 per month range.
So,
for door-to-door service.
Yeah, I mean, are they, I guess my question is, if there's more ridership, are we going to run into an issue where they're not going to be able to provide the service then for the special needs?
There would be more denials then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Gearbaugh?
Just, have you had any feedback from riders or anything, any concerns, questions, issues?
I mean, there've been a couple of, I'd call incidents, very specific complaints about a particular incident that, had more to do with services that were kind of outside of the contract, that People's Express had accommodated for a while, and then as ridership increased, they weren't able to accommodate those special rides that were kind of outside of the contract limits.
Is it more what, door-to-door or something, or?
Door-to-door, folks with special needs that didn't have attendance.
Oh, okay.
And scheduled every day of the week kind of rides.
Okay.
Additional questions, comments? Well, let me say this, and I think it was Ms. Tahar and I who met with representatives from AAATA about a year ago, and we looked at some of this data. Of course, we didn't have numbers for 2016 or for the second half of 2015, but it's abundantly clear that ridership is up, and that's a good thing. I think we're all cognizant that there is a need in this community for quality public transportation, which leads me to my second point, which I have stated on numerous occasions in the past, which as this community continues to grow and continue to age, I think we need more services and more amenities. And while People's Express does a reasonable job, I believe that the future is with AAATA. As Mr. Fordyce indicated in his opening remarks, we're not in a position where we can afford the service at this juncture, but I think we should plan accordingly. I will be supporting this motion. I think that's obvious, or I hope to support this motion. My preference, and I say this lightly and politely and respectfully, but I not favor a multi-year contract with People's Express. I've always stated that I favor a one-year contract. That's what I voted for in the past. I like that added flexibility. Again, noting that I would like to be in a position where we're able to partner with another entity, the ride, to provide the service. Now, I'm not under any delusion that that's going to happen in the next fiscal year, but I'd like to have that type of flexibility. So that's my preference. But again, providing public transportation is absolutely critical. There are a number of citizens that rely on it, and I'm happy to be in a position where we can subsidize the service like this.
That's right. The contract does include a 60-day termination for convenience clause. So,
we just have a slight disagreement. It's not a big issue, but I prefer a one-year contract. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Just one more. I'm looking at the numbers right now. It looks like from year to date compared to last year, we've seen a drop in in-town.
the last 2 months of data there have shown a year-to-year drop, for sure.
Any,
I haven't heard any issues about what, I don't have an explanation for that.
yeah, I just noticed that last year for April, there was 402 rides, and this year there's only 148, so
Yeah.
I didn't know if maybe these numbers aren't finalized.
Those are final numbers for those months, yeah.
Ms. McClellan?
Does the availability of the Evangelical Home and Brecken Village, those places having their own buses, make a difference in those numbers? Do you know if?
I think those services have been available
Prior to that?
prior to those dates.
For a decade,
Yeah.
Brecken
Yeah.
Village. More than a decade. Quickly, please.
Just to add to that point, but they certainly they do service Brecken Village, for instance. Otherwise, Evangelical Homes, right, wouldn't have sponsored, wouldn't have donated $8,000 towards the operation.
Perhaps maybe this drop is because we no longer have the clinics that are up at the old hospital. Would that have been a lot more riding up there to drop off to the
Yeah,
labs and so
that's
forth?
certainly in the.
I suspect that's probably what's the reason for the drop in the in-town ones,
Maybe.
unfortunately.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Fordyce, thank you. Appreciate your time. We have a motion on the floor then to acknowledge receipt of the memo dated June the 1st. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. How about a motion to approve or adopt a 2-year contract as presented to People's Express in the amount not to exceed $45,423 per year upon review and approval by the city attorney?
Move to approve.
Second.
Seconded by McClellan. Any discussion? No discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
So I would say I'm, especially given the fact that there is a clause in the contract that allows for some earlier termination for specific reasons or for good reasons, I'm in favor of the 2 years simply because we have a year of traffic chaos in front of us, and I think having People's Express for a longer period familiar with our situation, a 2-year time period appeals to me.
Additional comments, Mr. Gearbow?
And knowing that we've got a 60-day potential option to get out of it, I think that helps enough. My concern is looking at this now is that issue of potentially having more out-of-town trips, because now they're going to have to go all the way out to Walmart if they're doing St. Joe's activities, or all the way into Ann Arbor. So I think seeing these numbers shift, we're going to see a lot more of what happens in the next year in terms of how ridership plays out.
Ms. Tahar?
Yes, so could we say that we would like to see ridership information on a regular basis? I don't, maybe every 6 months, I don't know, before the end of the contract for sure, just so we can keep up to date on how it's going.
Yeah. Proceed without objection. Okay. Any additional discussion? No, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the discussion portion of our agenda, commission, committee, and task force reports from council members. Ms. McClellan.
The Green Thumb Award nominations are being accepted now since June 1st all the way till July 31st. The forms can be turned in at City Hall or the Rec Center. And then August 18th will be the Park Commission voting on that, and the awards will be handed in September.
Very good. Additional commission, committee, or task force reports. Ms. Tahar.
A question, and where can one find the nomination forms?
Good question.
They're here at City Hall, the Rec Center, and they're also online.
Okay, thank you.
Other commission, committee, and task force reports.
Mayor?
Please.
This Wednesday, we're going to be discussing the Karpinski property, or the city's property, in terms of the potential rezoning of it for the development that the city has been considering. So the open meetings for that will be at 7 o'clock. We encourage anyone to come and contribute if they'd like to hear about it and see what is being proposed for the development of that property.
Good. Any other commission, committee, or task force reports? Did you want to bring up something about the sesquicentennial? This would be the time to do it.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know what's been happening with it, and kind of understanding what's going to be, if we could have maybe at the next council meeting have a presentation to understand what's happening, because there may be some potential help that we as a council can provide, or especially I know Ms. Dillon's been dealing with it, working with it.
Can you, they have a meeting scheduled for the 9th, is that right, Ms. Bennett? Can you make sure that's added to the agenda, that council wants a presentation? Maybe we can get the chair or the vice chair to come. Put it at the top of the agenda. Okay. Very good.
Excuse me, Mayor, I believe
Yes.
it is set for the 20th agenda. There is
The fireworks are on there?
the fireworks,
Okay.
the entire event will be on the agenda.
Okay.
Oh, so more than just the fireworks. Okay.
Yes.
That'll work.
Well, and if someone's coming to present the fireworks, we could also talk about some of the other signature events and things that are planned. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Any other commission, committee, or task force reports?
Did you want to talk about it?
Go ahead.
Oh, you don't want to? Okay.
Well, if you want me to talk about it, I can talk about it, but if you want to...
No, go ahead. I was going to say either you or Todd can take the lead on that one.
The Substance Abuse Task Force had a meeting, I don't know if it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I guess it doesn't matter. And Nick Curcio, one of Scott Smith's assistants and associates from Dickinson Wright, attended at my request and at the group's request to talk about transitioning from a city-sponsored task force to an independent 501c3. And there seemed to be a variety of reasons as to why that would be better. Greater autonomy and greater independence from the city. And it would also allow us to access or potentially access some grant dollars that are available. I also believe that in the process of transitioning from a city group to an independent 501c3, we're going to need to make sure that there are some other constituencies and groups that are represented and participating that are not currently. I thought it was a good discussion. I know one of the co-chairs, Chief Rennick, is here, and Chief, if you wanted to make any comment on this, we would welcome that. Thought it was a good discussion. I believe that Dickinson Wright is moving forward in drafting some of the terms for our transition from a city task force to an independent 501c3. And when there's something more tangible to report, we'll be sure to bring that back to City Council. Am I missing anything either that you think I'm excluding, Ms. Dillon?
Well, the other part of becoming a 501(c)(3) is that will give us the ability to hire the coordinator.
Correct.
Because we will not be able to hire a coordinator till we're able to accept funds.
Any questions on that? Okay, very good. Chief, anything you want to add? No? Okay, excellent. Again, when there's something tangible to report, we'll be sure to share it. How about reports or other announcements? Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes.
On the 25th of May, several of us from Saline Main Street participated with employees from Key Bank on the downtown cleanup. Spent the afternoon going through downtown and pulling weeds and picking up litter and gathering up cigarette butts. And then the other thing that I had, last Friday, I attended the Economic Development and Land Use Committee meeting in Lansing. It's a subgroup of the Michigan Municipal League. And its primary purpose is to provide input about proposed bills that affect economic development or land use within the state of Michigan. And so what I have distributed here are the various bills that we looked at and the decisions that were reached about each of those. I have more information, notes, so if any of you have a particular interest in one of these bills and would like to talk with me further about that, I'd be happy to do that.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And there's some flyers up here at the dais, but our recreation complex is celebrating its 25th anniversary this Sunday, June the 12th, from 1 to 4. And Ms. Scruggs, maybe you want to comment on this. Maybe, why don't you come forward to the dais? There's going to be a brief program at 1 o'clock, and then there's going to be food and a lot of festivities. So why don't you explain?
Well, you just said it all. No. So the rec center is going to be open as usual at 6 a.m., but we're going to close at 11 in the morning. So we'll be open 6 to 11 for people to work out and get their morning fitness in. Then from 11 to 1, our staff is going to scramble around and get things set up. And at 1 o'clock sharp at the flagpole entrance, we're going to have a brief ceremonial thing. We'll have a few guest speakers and then invite everyone in, and we'll have a lovely cake and punch and desserts that are being provided by Story Point. And then on the pool deck, we're going to have firefighters out there cooking hot dogs and lots of festivities, music. The bounce houses are going to be out there. The inflatable obstacle course, we're going to have 212 is going to be there doing face painting and balloon animals and sidewalk chalk. We'll have 9 Square in the Air, Gaga, tetherball, sand volleyball, all sorts of things. 2:30, we're going to have Zumba on the tennis courts, so a free Zumba class. And let me see. Oh, we have the pirate ship is going to be in the pool, in the big pool, for all 3 hours from 1 to 4. And our floating turtle will be in there from 2 to 3. We're going to have a penny dive and all sorts of fun things. So actually, I'd like everyone to be able to join us. We're going to have a really cool giveaway for everyone that shows up. I can't tell you what it is, but maybe if you watch the countdown to our 25-year videos, you might see maybe what you might be getting when you walk in the doors. So I mentioned that the videos, if you go on to the Saline Post or onto our Facebook page or the Saline Post Facebook page, all of the 24 videos are on there right now. So we're really excited about this event. It's a big milestone, not as big as 150, but it's still a milestone. And there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, Magic Joe is going to be there. Yeah, so he'll walk around and do some magic tricks and whatnot.
Can I ask this question? I think it may be the most critical. Will there be an opportunity during this event for people to renew their membership or to buy a membership if they do not have one?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. Of course. We will have staff on hand to give tours, to show people around if they haven't been into the building. And definitely we'll be selling memberships. More than happy to do that.
Good.
And we'll have a lot of our staff there. We're doing some training with our kids camp staff early in the day, so they're going to stick around and help out. So it'll be a very fun, festive day. Weather's looking great, and we'd love to have everyone out there.
And in the spirit of celebration and excitement, I'm hoping that I will find out that you worked out promptly at 6 a.m. that morning.
Of course. Every Sunday, 6 a.m.
I'll follow up on that. Thank you, Director Scruggs. So again, please encourage folks to attend that. I think it will be a really nice time. If there are no additional reports or announcements, so there are,
Yes.
excuse me, Ms. Tahar and then Ms. Dillon.
Yes.
And then Mr. Gearby, I believe, has one as well.
On our way to or from the Rec Center celebration on Sunday, we have the opportunity of stopping off at the Saline District Library for the summer reading kickoff event. There are summer reading programs for all ages, not just kids, not just little kids. And it's usually a very good party. There will be live music and ice cream, and you can find more details on the library website. It starts at 2.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Ms. Dillon?
One thing was what Mr. Hart just mentioned. The other was, Mayor, did you want to mention your event at the Senior Center on Friday?
I can. Unfortunately, council members are welcome to attend, but I learned today that I can no longer take any RSVPs, any reservations. But I have my 5th annual senior conference this Friday at the Saline Center, and I believe 90 people have registered to attend, that kind of puts us at capacity. There'll be a breakfast, a free lunch, a government panel that includes our state senator, a road commissioner, our parks and rec director, and assessor, and then 3 breakout sessions, a cooking demonstration provided by Bush's, an exercise class, not meant to compete with the rec center in any way, and then one on Saline's history, also plugging the book that the Sesquicentennial Task Force hopes to print in the coming months. So should be a lot of fun, should be informative to our seniors. If council members would like to come, you're more than welcome to call the Senior Center and RSVP for any portion of the event. If you'd just like to come for lunch, I'd be happy to have you. Again, that's this Friday, June the 10th. But unfortunately, I can no longer accept any RSVPs or reservations. But if you wanted to call and put your name on a wait list, I'm sure the Senior Center would be happy to oblige you, or to accommodate you, rather. Any other reports or announcements? How about, Ms. Gearba, I'm sorry.
And I just want to promote the Wayne Clemens Memorial Second Annual Independence Day event that we're going to have on July 2nd at the Depot, celebrate the 4th of July, and we're going to have a horse cart, tractors, all kinds of stuff. It's from 11 to 3. I'll be promoting it again later on, but the idea is to kind of have another recognition in the city for the July 4th.
Great. Please.
Actually, I just remembered what I wanted to tell you. I have two more things to tell you. On Friday evening, June 10th, we're going to have our inaugural Mutstadon, which is a dog and human event where they race around the obstacle course at the dog park at Mill Pond, and that starts at 5:30. It's a free event. You can call in and put your name on the reservation or on the list, or show up with your dog. And also, that evening is our very first movie in the park for the summer. So we're showing Finding Nemo, and it's going to start, well, we have events starting at about 6:15, 6:30 until dusk, and then as soon as it's dark enough, we'll put the movie on. So big evening on Friday, and then another big evening on Sunday with the rec center and the library.
Very good.
And Saturday morning.
Oh, and Saturday morning, I'm sorry, thank you, wow. We have a lot going on. Every Saturday from 8 until 9 a.m. at Henny Field is Yoga in the Park. We had our first event last Saturday. We had about 38 people show up, which is, that was our average for last year. So we're hoping to increase that as awareness is out there, and tell people every Saturday, 8 a.m., Henny Field, it's free. Bring a yoga mat, or if you don't have one, we have some extra ones, and maybe a bottle of water. And then after class, walk downtown, grab a coffee and donuts or pretzels or whatnot. I know it's that's probably not good for you, but it's good for you. So yeah, thank you.
And the location is by Owen's Place on the south end of
Yes.
the field, away from the ball fields.
Correct, yes. On this side, you can access it from Owen Place. There's not a lot of parking there, but there is street parking. Or if you want to park off of Bennett Street and then walk on the very, very nice trails that are now lit, then you can
Push
access
park
them.
here at City Hall.
Or park here at City Hall, yeah. Yeah, or park downtown and walk
Yeah.
in, grab a coffee and walk over. All right?
Good. Thank you, Ms. Scruggs. Any other reports or announcements? No, then let's move on to Farmers Market. As I indicated at our last work meeting, I was going to add this as a discussion item in the event that anyone had additional thoughts following that discussion. I thought it was a very good discussion. I think points regarding marketing and setting up some sort of advisory or friends committee would certainly be beneficial. And I think overall it's an issue that we need to be cognizant of, because we want our farmers market to continue to thrive and prosper in the years ahead, and we don't want it to begin to move in a downward trajectory. So those are my thoughts, but if people had additional comments, I would welcome those at this time. Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes.
Yeah, the only other comment that I had, and I meant to bring this up at our work group, and I forgot to do that, was when they're doing the property utilization review of the northwest quadrant, it might be helpful to have them sort of keep in mind a potential location for a farmer's market there. Might be more space available than what we have in a current location.
I don't think there's any harm whatsoever in at least having them look at that, so we can make that, we'll make sure that staff communicates that to Saline Main Street.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Tahar, followed by Ms. Dillon.
Yeah, I would say, I thought the discussion in the work session was very valuable. I learned a lot about the market that I didn't know. And I thought, so the discussion was both informative and very positive, I thought. And I will also add, I happened to see Ms. Crisp last week, and she mentioned to me that she's working with a group of the vendors at the market to begin forming a friends group.
Right.
So she's moving ahead with that idea.
Ms. Dillon?
I will echo what Mrs. Terhar just mentioned and just say I thought that our initial discussions were very fruitful, and I want us to be thoughtful as we go forward, because I don't want to be a solution looking for a problem. And I just think there are many steps left before any decisions are made.
Anyone else have comments? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Obviously, our dialogues and discussions regarding the future of our farmers market will continue. We'll transition now to the fourth item under the discussion portion of our agenda, drinking water, MDEQ. Who's taking the lead on this? Is this Jeff, Mr. Fordyce? The floor is yours. And again, I'm assuming you're going to reference the flyer that was distributed earlier this evening?
That is part of it.
Thank you.
So following the Flint water crisis, the MDEQ has done a fair amount of research, and they are in the process of implementing changes to the lead and copper rule, which is the sampling procedures basically to monitor our system for lead and copper content. And they are moving towards new requirements for distribution systems. They've given us some advisement of what's probably going to happen, but there is nothing definitive on that. So one of the definitive things that they've issued is that municipal water supplies should review their records and to the best of their ability determine where lead drinking water service lines are located. So we have completed that. Primarily it's been based on records of the age of our water mains, observations from past excavations, water main breaks, service line repairs, and that type of actual eyes on the material records. Because our building records don't go back all that far, and the ones that we do have, they basically say, you know, water lead complied with the plumbing code, which could mean a lot of different things. So, so there's not a lot of information available there. So in that process, we have narrowed down to basically just two areas where we suspect there's a good possibility of some lead components in the water leads. We are not aware of any full water leads where it would be a lead pipe all the way from the main to the house. To the best of our knowledge, we do not have any of those in the city. What we do have are lead, what we call goosenecks. It's the first couple of feet, you know, from the big water main, and then the lead makes a nice flexible connection point, and then it transitions to either galvanized iron or copper after that.
Does the lead come in contact with the water, though, or no?
Within a gooseneck, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Our water is properly treated so that all of these surfaces have that protective coating on there. That was the dissolution of that in Flint was the problem that happened there. So that coating is in place. Our water has been treated that way for decades. So that's all there. Those properties that we have identified that have this high likelihood will be receiving notices so that they can, and some informational material from the DEQ on how to deal with the presence of lead in your plumbing. We are currently replacing the Michigan Avenue water main, right. Which is one of the locations that we've identified. That's it's the oldest water main in the city. So those goosenecks are coming out as we go along, and then we have budgeted for next budget year to replace the other water main where we suspect this is an issue.
Is that Ann Arbor near Bennett?
North Ann Arbor Street, yeah. There is a section of North Ann Arbor Street where there's another water main available. So we're going to do a directional bore under the road and connect those services to the new water main, the newer water main in the area. So that'll happen hopefully this fall, and then the other water main replacement will be next construction season. The flyer that you have on the table is guidance for property owners during construction activities. One of the things that the research has shown is that if you have lead components in your plumbing, just the presence of construction in the area can shake some things, literally shake some things loose and increase the lead content in your water. So these are these will be distributed this week also. So folks have some techniques to monitor the system and protect themselves. It's very simple stuff. Clean out the aerator on your faucet, let the water run a little bit, and you know, if you feel necessary, use a filter. So this inventory has, in relation to the lead and copper sampling procedures, because we've made these determinations, we'll have to find some new testing sites in our next round. So our testing so far has shown, you know, full compliance with the lead regulations in the drinking water, but we do need to acquire some new sampling sites in response to what we found as we researched the distribution system. And that sampling will take place, that's Bob's department, but I think it's in 2017. So that's when our next full round of lead sampling. And construction.
That's
all
it?
I have. Yep.
Mr. Fordyce, in addition to letters that some property owners are going to receive, is there anything in the upcoming FYI newsletter on this issue?
I think that's already gone to press. No? So
No?
I don't know if we have an opportunity to.
We could squeeze something in, because I will tell you, Ms. Dillon referenced or reminded me of my senior conference. I bet you dollars to donuts it will come up there. This issue came up at my last coffee hour. I get asked frequently about it. Of course, there was a very comprehensive, in-depth article in the Saline Post that I think Bob wrote and researched probably 2-3 months ago. I mean, this is an important issue that people take it seriously, as they should.
Yep.
So they need to know that we're doing our utmost to keep them safe and to provide them with safe, clean drinking water. So appreciate this. Mr. Rhodes.
Can you get enough copies of this to hand out at the senior conference?
Yes, we could. Could I get you or someone from city staff get me some copies of this?
How many?
90.
100?
Okay.
Sooner as opposed to later, because I'm going to probably make up the packets on Thursday. Be a good thing, too, to just have available at the library, senior center, a variety of places. Any questions for our DPW director? That was easy enough. Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate it. 2 more things. We'll try to be quick on these folks. How about an update from our city manager on the FY17 strategic plan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you have the final version, which you may recall, there was just a couple minor, it's been a month and a half, 2 months ago that I brought this forward, just with some clarifications. Those have been made. And so, however, in the past, City Council has basically just adopted it by consensus under the discussion portion like I'm presenting right now. So unless there's changes, if council deem it appropriate to consider it as a consensus item currently.
Okay. Why don't we do this, unless you have objections, Mr. Campbell, and I apologize I didn't speak to you about this. We've got a council meeting in 2 weeks. Why don't we add it again as a discussion item? People, or my colleagues, excuse me, please take a look at it. I'm sure you already have, but take a second look at it between now and then. And if there are no objections, no concerns, if we think it's comprehensive enough, we'll proceed. And if there are changes, we can discuss those at that time. Okay? Do you want to transition now to kind of an exciting thing that's gotten a lot of play on Facebook? The streetcar rails from Old Maud that were discovered during the reconstructive US 12?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know prior to the project getting kind of heated up, if you will, and moving a lot of dirt, I know our city engineer, Gary Roble, as well as myself, we would get a number of folks would come up to, especially Gary, and say, hey, are they going to uncover the tracks of Old Maud, the old streetcar? And Gary would tell you, because I know he told me a lot, that in all the years, in 28 plus years that he's been city engineer, and all the projects that he's done crossing Michigan Ave here in Saline, they never came across them. And so he wasn't sure if they existed or not, if they hadn't been removed already at some time in the past. And sure enough, I think it's been 2 weeks ago now, that when the cold mill was milling the asphalt, found the tracks. and it was not on purpose because it actually, the mill suffered, but basically broke down. so those if you ever watch a mill, it chews up the asphalt, but when it hits the not steel, but the cast that they're made out of, it comes to a screeching halt. So uncovered about 300 feet, and I'm not sure how much do you know how many that we preserved? The bulk of it. So there's some pretty large pieces. Certainly, at minimum, we know that the Historical Society is interested in getting some for the Depot Museum for display, and then we've talked internally as staff of maybe doing some sort of historical signage, along Michigan Ave or something of that nature. We've also had some interest from the community that would like to have some. So we were just, again, staff kind of brainstorming and based on some discussions that we had with City of Rochester when they auctioned off items, that type of thing. The thought is, of course, it means that we need to be able to cut it, and thus far we're not successful unless we found a rail cutter. Okay, so the thought is if we can find an efficient way to cut it into smaller sizes, pieces, we could, ask council for direction if they would agree with that. Again, excuse me, a nominal kind of fundraising, if you will, maybe put towards the streetscape project, something of that nature. I don't know, $5, $10, I don't know, for a couple of section or something like that. Or more, whatever. I mean, but the idea that if community members want to share in the historical find, I mean, it's a significant find, obviously. And the other thing, just as a note, I thought was very interesting, the tracks, the switches for the tracks were actually hand forged. I mean, that's certainly a lost art for sure. But very, very talented individuals back in the day. So that's kind of our thought, is if we can find a rail cutter, and I don't know if you've been able to make contact with the railroad, so that's one of the things we're working on, is try and contact them to see if we could borrow one or we could utilize it or something, because with our cutoff saws, even torching it, it's not efficient to try and to cut up into smaller pieces, because we do have a fair amount of large pieces.
I would, let me start by saying this. It's kind of a cool thing. I think if you can find an efficient, effective way to cut it, I think selling sections for a relatively nominal cost, I think would be great. And I think there's a number of people who'd like to own a section. I, for one, would like to just donate or provide a nice, sizable section to the Historic Society. And I would hope that we could proceed in that direction without objection. Obviously, that organization works closely with the city. It's dedicated to preserving our past. They should have a section. And I think that would be a great conversation piece to have on display at the Depot Museum. So I would assume there's no objection to providing the Historic Society with a sizable chunk. Okay.
I think that's an appropriate thing to do. And I was surprised in looking at the old rails that they were cast iron as opposed to the steel rails that are in use now. And I suspect if you're able to get a rail cutter borrow one from the railroad, they're not going to have one that's going to work on cast iron because they haven't used that for 100 years.
Maybe not.
So, Ms. McClellan.
Just had someone mention something to me this morning that might be interesting, and we haven't had an Arts and Culture Commission meeting, but the potential for maybe saving enough of it to do some kind of city sculpture, some kind of public art sculpture that we could maybe honor the history with, but also have a piece of public art with it.
If, again, if we're able to find a way to cut cast iron, I'm assuming we could bring it back as a discussion item to talk about a method and a protocol for selling it. But again, it looks like we could provide a section to the Historic Society anytime. And I know as Mr. Gearbach can elaborate, I think the group would be very excited to receive
Yeah, the board's been excited about it, so if we can move ahead with that, I would like to see that happen.
Very good for the July.
Anything else?
Yeah, maybe if we could get 2 pieces for the July 2nd celebration, even
that'd
just
be
to have
cool.
it laying out.
to have on display at the depot? That'd be great. Okay, all right, very good. Well, you'll probably be hearing more from us on this. Anything else under discussion? I meant to bring this up under reports or announcements. I received a very nice letter from the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks congratulating our Deputy Clerk, Amy Bloom, on receiving her Certified Michigan Municipal Clerks certificate, which I guess is a big deal. I'm kind of a novice when it comes to these things, sort of ignorant, but that's very impressive. So next time you see Amy and you're in the office, be sure to congratulate her. Okay? If there's nothing further under the discussion portion of the agenda, we come now to citizen comments or public comments. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record.
I would just like to ask a question. On check 55707 for the 212 arts and culture costs, there was a $350 charge for one of the decorative bikes. And I assume that's where Arts 12 put the knitting on. Is this only for one bike? I mean, $350. They're beautiful, but I just wanted to find out how many more bikes, if they're a piece.
Staff can get you clarification on that, Mrs. Hess. Thank you. Additional citizen comments? No citizen comments? Okay. Well, please note our next meeting is on June the 20th. We do not have a work meeting. And then we have another regular meeting on July the 11th with a work meeting at 6:30 to talk about redevelopment-ready communities, and then a regular meeting at 7:30. We've already excused the absence of Councilmember Seal, so at this time the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:50 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Gearbaugh. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by McClellan. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.